He was born into a world that demanded everything from a boy before he even had a chance to dream. The wind swept across the dry fields of Texas, where he ran barefoot chasing the horizon, the sun beating down on his small frame, the cotton picking and hard labor shaping a resilience that would one day define him. He learned early that life was unforgiving, that strength was measured not by size but by the courage to rise each morning to face the impossible. His family was poor and the world was vast and unyielding, yet inside him burned a fire that could not be quenched, a desire to be more than the circumstances that sought to define him, to step beyond the life that whispered limitations and embrace a destiny written not in comfort but in valor. When the drums of war echoed across distant lands, Audie did not hesitate. Though he was young and small, he felt a calling that resonated deeper than fear. He lied about his age and enlisted, ready to prove that courage has no height, that heroism is not measured by birthright but by action and training. He was underestimated, mocked, and dismissed as too slight to withstand the harshness of preparation, yet every doubt hurled his way only fueled his determination. Every push of the body, every ache of the muscles hardened his resolve to become the man he needed to be, to stand when others faltered, to move forward when the world seemed determined to stop him. He became a shadow in the night, a whisper of possibility that even the smallest among us can carry the weight of nations across the rugged terrain of foreign lands. He faced the chaos of battle with eyes wide open yet steady heart. The smoke of war and the cries of the fallen did not drown his purpose. He learned to move with precision, to act with courage, to protect those who could not protect themselves. The stories of his valor spread quietly at first among his comrades, a boy of barely 19 who could hold a position against overwhelming odds, who could inspire the weary with a glance, who could turn fear into a shield for those who stood beside him. Each mission was a test of spirit, a testament to the depth of his heart. He did not seek glory, yet glory found him as he climbed the embattled ridges and stood alone with nothing but determination and the relentless rhythm of his pulse guiding his hands. He became a figure larger than life yet profoundly human, a symbol of what it means to face fear and refuse to yield. The world would come to call him a hero, but to him heroism was simply doing what was necessary, putting one foot in front of the other, refusing to let despair take root, refusing to let the cries of the fallen echo unheard. He was not invincible, he was not a god, he was a boy who dared to be brave, who dared to love his country more than his comfort, who dared to believe that one life could matter in a storm of chaos and destruction. Every step forward was a declaration that courage is not the absence of fear but the mastery of it. As the battles raged on across mountains, rivers, and villages, Audie's legend grew quietly. He saved countless lives, not for fame, not for medals, but because his heart compelled him to act, because he could not stand by and watch injustice prevail. Each act of bravery carried weight, yet he bore it lightly, for he knew that the measure of a man is in the lives he touches, not the accolades he receives. The nights were long and the cold was biting, yet even in exhaustion he stood vigilant. Even in sorrow he remained compassionate. His humanity was his greatest weapon. His ability to connect to the pain and hope of those around him turned ordinary soldiers into a unit bound by trust, by courage, by the unspoken understanding that together they could endure anything. He returned from the war not as a boy, not as a legend, but as a man who had seen the cost of freedom and carried it with quiet dignity. The world recognized him with medals and honors, yet he carried them lightly, for he knew that the true reward was in the life preserved, in the hope rekindled, in the courage inspired in those who witnessed a life lived fully with bravery and heart. He became a symbol not just of war but of resilience, of humanity, of the capacity to rise above circumstance, to embody the values we hold dear even in the face of unimaginable trials. His story would be told and retold in films, books, and whispers around campfires, yet the essence of Audie Murphy was not in the retelling, it was in the living, it was in the choices he made, in the moments that demanded everything, it was in the quiet strength that spoke louder than any cannon, it was in the heart of a boy who became the real-life Captain America. The world could see the medals, the fame, the accolades, but only those who walked beside him could understand the depth of his courage. The nights spent in terror, the mornings spent comforting the wounded, the endless march forward with nothing but resolve. His life was a testament to the power of human spirit, a story of how even the smallest among us can rise to unimaginable heights when guided by love, honor, and an unwavering sense of duty. He taught that heroism is not reserved for the mighty or the famous. It lives in each act of selflessness, in each moment we choose to stand when the world demands surrender, in every heartbeat that says, I will not give up, I will not falter. He carried these truths with him every step of the way, and in doing so became immortal not through legend alone, but through the living embodiment of courage and heart. And as the sun set on distant battlefields and The shadows lengthened across the hills. He remained a beacon, a reminder that bravery is not defined by power, but by the choices we make when all seems lost, and that even a single life can shine brighter than the darkest night. November 13th, 1:30 p.m. Awise. He moved through the chaos of war with a heart that refused to break his eyes, always searching for those in need, his hands steady. Even when the ground shook beneath him, the screams and smoke were constant companions, yet they never dulled his sense of duty. He learned quickly that fear was a shadow that could be faced and conquered, that every step forward was a choice to live honorably, and to protect those who could not protect themselves. The nights were long and the cold crept into his bones, yet he stood watch. He moved tirelessly through villages and forests, across rivers swollen with rain, carrying the wounded, guiding the lost. His courage was quiet yet undeniable. His comrades came to rely on him, not just for strength, but for hope, the kind of hope that rises like a flame in the midst of darkness, that says we will survive because we choose to, because there is something within us that cannot be extinguished. He was small, but every action he took carried the weight of giants. Every decision to move forward, to help another, to risk himself, spoke louder than the roar of artillery. He faced moments that would have broken the bravest men, yet he pressed on, fueled by a deep love for his country and an unwavering sense of responsibility. Each day tested his body and his spirit, yet each day he proved that heroism is a matter of heart, not size, not skill, but the choice to act when the world trembles around you. He saved lives in ways that were invisible to the world. He comforted the frightened, gave strength to the weary, and through his actions reminded all who followed that courage is contagious, that when one person refuses to give in, others can find their own strength. In the midst of fire, he climbed into positions others thought impossible. He stood where danger was certain. He acted where hesitation could have been easier, and he carried the weight of others with a grace that belied his youth. He was awarded medals and honors for his bravery, yet he remained humble, knowing that each act of heroism was not for recognition, but for the lives it preserved. The bonds he formed with his fellow soldiers were deeper than words. Those who fought beside him knew the quiet resolve in his eyes, the way he moved not recklessly but with purpose, the way he inspired them to rise. When fear pressed close, they trusted him, not because he demanded it, but because he embodied the values they all aspired to. He became a symbol of hope in a world consumed by violence, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, one person can shine brightly enough to guide others home. Every hill he scaled, every ridge he defended, every risk he took carried with it the silent prayer that someone would live because he chose to act, that someone would have a chance to see the world beyond the smoke, the flames, and the sorrow. His courage was not a performance, it was a living, breathing force that touched everyone around him. It spoke without words, it moved without fanfare, it changed the course of lives and left an imprint that would never fade. Even after the battles ended, even after the medals were pinned upon his chest, he carried the memories, the faces, the sounds, the weight of responsibility quietly inside him. He returned home, not as a man transformed by glory, but as a man who had seen the cost of freedom and still chose to live with compassion. He struggled with memories that would haunt him, yet he never allowed them to harden his heart. He knew that true courage was not in forgetting the pain, but in using it to inspire kindness, to protect the innocent, and to lead by example in a world that often seemed indifferent. He remained steadfast, a living reminder that bravery is defined not by acts of violence, but by the willingness to endure hardship for the sake of others, to stand when others fall, to carry hope like a torch through darkness. He shared his story not to boast, but to teach that every individual carries within them the power to act with honor, to face fear with dignity, and to touch lives in ways that matter more than any accolade or title. The memory of his actions became legend, not because they were spectacular, but because they were real, because they were human, because they demonstrated that heroism is a reflection of the heart and not the size of the man. The world watched as he became a figure in films and books, as his story was told and retold, yet the essence of Audie Murphy was never in the retelling, it was in the moments he lived, in the choices he made, in the silent courage that carried him forward, and in the way he made others believe that they too could be brave, that they too could rise above fear, and that they too could leave a mark that mattered more than any battlefield or medal. Every step he took after returning home was a continuation of that journey. He lived with humility, with grace, and with the quiet strength that had carried him through the most impossible days. He reminded all who met him that true heroism is not in recognition, it is in service, in sacrifice, and in the unwavering commitment to act when it matters most. And as the years passed, his story became timeless, a lesson that courage and compassion can coexist, that heroism is available to all who dare to choose it, and that even a single life committed to integrity and love can illuminate the world brighter than the darkest night. He returned to a world that had not changed as much as he had. The streets of his hometown were familiar, yet the boy who had left was gone, replaced by a man who had seen the edge of mortality, and carried it quietly inside him. The medals and honors adorned his chest, yet they were only symbols. The true measure of his journey was in the lessons he had learned, the weight of responsibility, the depth of compassion, the understanding that courage is as much about endurance as it is about action. He struggled to find peace in the ordinary. The simple routines of daily life were often suffused with memories of smoke and loss, yet he met each day with the same determination that had guided him through battle. He chose to use his story not for fame but for inspiration, to show that bravery is not reserved for the few, that it lives in each decision to stand when it would be easier to fall, each choice to protect, each act of kindness. He entered Hollywood not as a star seeking glory but as a storyteller sharing the truth of what he had lived in the films. He participated in audiences, saw excitement and drama, yet beneath it lay the heart of a man who had known real fear and real sacrifice. He often played himself in roles that mirrored his experiences, not to relive the horrors, but to honor the courage of those who could not be recognized. The cameras and lights could never replicate the texture of battle, the bonds of comradeship, the silent bravery of those who went unnoticed. Yet through his work he brought their stories to life, reminding the world that heroism is found in the ordinary, in the willingness to act when others hesitate. He spoke quietly in interviews about the importance of courage, of humility, of the quiet strength that carries a person through hardship. He never allowed fame to overshadow the people who had fought beside him or the lessons he had learned in the fields, forests, and villages of distant lands. His home became a place of reflection, a sanctuary, where he could process the weight he carried and share the wisdom he had gained with others. He mentored young soldiers and inspired audiences with his unwavering belief in the power of the human spirit. He reminded them that heroism is not always dramatic, that it often lives in the daily choices to be honest, to be kind, to stand for what is right, even when the world does not notice, that it is in the way we touch lives that our true legacy is written. He continued to live with a sense of purpose that had begun in the fields of Texas and been forged in the crucible of war. Each morning, he rose with a commitment to honor those who had fallen and to carry their memory with dignity. He understood that the truest measure of a hero is not in medals or fame, but in the quiet acts of courage and compassion that ripple outward, shaping the lives of others in ways that are often unseen yet profoundly felt. His story became a beacon for those struggling with their own battles, a reminder that the human spirit is capable of extraordinary resilience, that even in moments of fear, doubt, and pain one can choose to act with integrity and heart. He shared the lessons of his life, not to dwell on sorrow, but to illuminate the path of courage for others, to show that bravery is not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it, that it is in standing up when the world urges us to stay down that true heroism is found. The legacy he left is not confined to books or films. It lives in every person who has drawn inspiration from his life, who has felt their own courage rise when hearing his story, who has understood that heroism is a choice available to each of us. It is in the whispers of hope he instilled in others, the quiet strength he inspired, and the example he set through his actions, that he remains immortal, a man who carried the weight of war with humility, who faced fear with resolve, who returned to life with compassion, and who taught the world that the heart of a hero beats not in battle alone, but in every decision to act with love. Embodied the lives he touched, the courage he inspired, and the hope he spread are echoes that will never fade. His story is a testament to the power of resilience, of the enduring strength of the human heart, and of the truth that one life lived with bravery and compassion can illuminate the world brighter than the fiercest darkness. The memory of the boy from Texas who became the real-life Captain America lives on in the hearts of those who believe that courage is not a gift reserved for the few, but a choice available to all, that even the smallest among us can rise to greatness when guided by love, by honor, and by an unwavering commitment to do what is right. He taught the world that the soul of a hero is measured not in fame or fortune, but in the lives touched, in the hope ignited, and in the quiet courage that persists long after the battles have ended. And in that enduring light, he remains a symbol, a reminder, a living testament that bravery is not born, it is chosen, that heroism is not seen, it is felt, and that the heart of a single person can carry the weight of a nation and illuminate the darkness for generations to come. November 13th, 1:32 p.m. A wise. He spent his days quietly carrying the echoes of his past, the memories of friends lost, and the battles fought etched into the lines of his face, yet he never let them define the fullness of his life. He chose to live not in sorrow but in purpose, to inspire others to find their own courage, to embrace each day with the knowledge that heroism is not a title, it is a way of living, that even the smallest acts of kindness, the softest words of encouragement, the steadfast presence of one who refuses to turn away from suffering can ripple through the world and leave an impact far greater than the loudest trumpet of fame. He walked through life with humility, his heart open to the stories of others, to the struggles of those who sought guidance. He understood that true bravery is measured not in medals or accolades but in the quiet choices to act. When others hesitate to love, when the world is cruel to hope, when despair is near, he taught that the real battles are often not fought with weapons but with choices that define the character, the integrity, and the soul of a person. He reminded the world that bravery is not the absence of fear but the triumph over it, that heroism is not always loud or visible but often quiet, subtle, and profound, that a single life lived with courage can illuminate the path for countless others. He became more than a man. He became a symbol, a beacon, a testament to the enduring power of the human spirit to rise above adversity, to act with compassion, and to live with unwavering honor. Even as the years passed and the world around him changed, the essence of Audie Murphy remained eternal, the boy from Texas who faced impossible odds, the young soldier who saved lives with nothing but heart, the man who returned home carrying memories and lessons and shared them with the world. His legacy lives not only in films, books, and stories but in the countless hearts he inspired, in the courage he sparked, in the hope he nurtured, and in the understanding he imparted that every person has within them the power to be heroic, to act with integrity, to choose compassion over indifference, to rise above fear and despair. He showed that a life of bravery is not defined by fame or fortune but by the choices we make, the way we touch others, the courage we embody, and the love we give freely without expectation.